All right, it's officially the top of the hour, so we will go ahead and get started. My name is Nicole Lyons, and I am here with my colleagues and fellow JLC executive coaches, Colleen Sullivan and Dr. Ray Jorgensen. We are so grateful that you came to our session today, and we're looking forward to getting right into the conversation. But before we do, I wanted to share a couple of logistics about our system. We are using the Zoom webinar platform, as you may have already noticed. But there's a couple of really wonderful things that we can do to engage with each other during the session today. And you should find those tools at the bottom of your Zoom screen. There's really two ways that we can connect today. One is through the Q&A. You can feel free to use that to ask a question during any point of the session. We'll be going to those questions regularly, or you can use the chat to engage with us and each other. One note about the chat, there's a little drop-down menu that will show you who your chat is going to be shared with. One option is to send comments and questions just to us as the panelists. The other is to share with everyone, which is what we would encourage. So it feels a little more conversational over there in the chat. So you can select to send to the panelists and attendees. So as I said, my name is Nicole. We'll be with you for the next 45 minutes. And just a little about us as the Jorgensen Learning Center. Our team is a team of professionals that's really committed and passionate about helping leaders to enhance their everyday leadership conversations, their relationships, and their results. And with that, I'm going to turn over to my colleague, Colleen.
Absolutely. Thank you so much, Nicole. And thank you, everyone, for taking time out of your busy day to join us. Today, we're going to be having a short conversation about saying yes when you really mean no and speaking from the heart. And I'm hopefully when you guys read that, it kind of resonated with you because it made me really think about many times we do that subconsciously. We're not even thinking about it, right? Because it can look as simple as, come on, let's just get it done. Come on, we need to hurry up and finish. So today we're really going to talk about how when sometimes you say yes and you really mean no, how does that impact, if you're the meeting leader, your ability to create a space for others to speak from the heart? And how does that impact your decision making? And also from a participant perspective, how does that really impact your ability to work collaboratively with your colleagues and really speak from the heart and offer your best thinking? At the end of our brief conversation today, our hope is that you walk away with a couple different things that you can use immediately, whether you are a participant or the meeting leader, in encouraging others as well as modeling speaking from the heart. So I just kicked us off with a focusing statement. We always like to, I say, eat our own dog food, right? We always begin with a focusing statement. What are we going to know and be able to do at the end of this conversation? So before I move forward, I'm going to close the learning loop. So I'm going to loop back over to my girlfriend, Nicole, and say, hey, what did you hear me say that we're going to be focused on our conversation today? And the second piece is, what did it mean to you? We're always making personal connections and making personal meaning. So what'd you hear me say, my friend?
Yeah, what I heard you say, Colleen, is that we're going to be talking about ways that we can enhance how we speak from the heart in our meetings and conversations, and how that has a really big impact on the way in which we collaborate and the way we make decisions together. And for me, that means, what that meant to me was really getting me thinking about the way in which I go about my daily conversations with people and how intentional I am about, am I speaking from the heart? And am I just dismissing, like you said, do we want to get through and get done with this conversation? Or do we actually want to take the time to be present with the person or the group that we're with, and to make those really collaborative decisions that we're going to feel good about in the end? So that was what I heard. Thank you.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you so much for that, Nicole. And like you said, sometimes we don't even know we're doing it. Sometimes we're rushing. Sometimes it's deference. Whatever you say, boss, right? Looks lots of different ways. So we're going to have lots of conversations around what that looks like and how it does impact our ability to get results. How about you, Ray? What did you hear? Did you hear anything different?
I don't know that I heard anything different, but I certainly heard myself talking to myself about this. So you said initially, I think, we say yes, or we give silent affirmation to moving forward, for example.
Mhm.
And I thought of another time at the end of a briefing or the end of a presentation, somebody says, "Are there any questions?" And everyone looks around the room or looks around the Zoom screen. And if nobody's raising their hand or nobody burps or makes a sound, then we're like, okay, I guess we're good. I guess I just don't quite understand. And I just don't say anything. So this is really interesting to me at a lot of levels. I have in my own practice found myself speaking from my cognition, from my head, rather than from my heart. So I heard that loud and clear from Nicole also about this is about me and how I interact. And you made me, and Nicole, as you were speaking, I immediately went to, what is it about me that makes me not speak? Not why do I not speak? What is it about me? What is my personal self-talk or language that's stopping me from speaking? So that was really a wonderful setup. And at the end of this piece, I'm going to talk about a few steps that you can take. And Colleen did the first step in any conversation, that is to create the intention by doing a CPO. This is why we're here. This is what we hope you will understand. And this is what each of you will know and be able to do at the end. So Colleen, I don't think I missed too much. Let me know if I drifted on you on that one with my own personal self-talk.
No, no, not at all.
So let's kind of just begin. So the best way to do this right now is for all of you that are listening and with us right now. My suspicion is that you have lots of things that are distracting you that are top of mind. I'm going to get Colleen and Nicole to model this for you. But before I do it, I'm going to invite you to just be silent for a few seconds and recognize, notice, become aware of what is it that's distracting you, that holds us almost hostage from being present in this conversation. And just for a few seconds, either with pencil or paper, or just sit and just take a deep breath and notice, what is it that is, this is just on my mind and I'm worried. I'll give you one of mine and then I'll ask my colleagues to do the same. Now, one of my sons had a crummy CAT scan. And we don't know what it is yet, but we don't like it. And as much as I attempt to breathe that away, it returns to my subconscious self-talk all day long, like it did just now. So what I need to be able to do is just breathe into that space, love him as much as I can, and move forward. But it is definitely something that holds me hostage. So before I pick on Nicole and Colleen, why don't each of you just write a word or a phrase or a person or an event, something that's distracting you right now. And as you write it down, think about, how can I release it so I can stay in this seminar with everybody? So let me be silent for a few seconds and let you do that. I invite Nicole and Colleen to do the same, and I'll pick on them in about 20 seconds. I'm completely sure that's not enough time. And in order to honor your time, which is your asset, time is your greatest asset in this century, I'm going to return to my colleagues and have them fill my ears, and I hope your ears, about what's distracting you and how are you putting it away. Colleen, you want to start?
Sure. I think what's distracting me right now, I'm just going to say the future. I think I just got my first vaccine shot and I'm really looking forward to that. But what's distracting me is, okay, so how's that going to impact me? Servicing my clients, getting back on the road, really impact my travel, just like it did everyone across the country, and the way that I've been operating and doing business. So I think my focus and what's really distracting me is travel, serving the clients to the best of my ability and wanting to get on the road, but then noticing in the news this morning, the CDC guidelines really isn't enforcing if you're fully vaccinated, to get on the road. So I think it's still kind of just little bit of confusion around the future, and it's a little cloudy.
Yeah, I like that. So what I'm hearing you say is that COVID has distracted us in so many ways, collectively, right? Organizations, teams, client relations, everything, right? So many distractions. And for you personally, what you love to do is to be with people and share these practices. And you're thinking about, my goodness, is this stopping me again? Do I need to get the second one and I'm ready to go? Or how is this going to get me in the future? Did I get you right, Colleen?
Absolutely. It's like, hey, are we there yet? Come on, I just want to be done. Where's my normal? I feel like I'm a little kid just ready to get back after it.
Yeah, my language in the back of my dad's car is, when is this over? Are we there yet? So yeah, I so understand that. Thank you so much. Nicole, what was on your mind that you're putting aside for a few minutes?
Well, I have a real-time example. As you were all talking, my screen was frozen. I had a PowerPoint slide up as we started the conversation today, and that PowerPoint presentation took over both of my screens. And there was that little wheel, that little colorful wheel that you get on your Apple when things are not going well. So I'm sitting over here like panicking, and probably if any of you are watching my face, you could see that happening in real time because I did not have any Zoom control. And I'm the host of this fun event that we're having right now. So that was very distracting for me as you all were having some conversation, and Ray, you were introducing to us, and I had to like Google on my phone really quick how to like escape out of PowerPoint when it's frozen. So I did that, and now I am back and present in our conversation. But that was a massive distraction.
How that impact your listening?
It did. Yeah, I don't think I heard anything you were saying until I figured out how to come back and get to my Zoom controls. So
it's too bad because it was really good. It was what we were talking about.
I'll have to go back and watch it again.
Yeah, so I was watching your face, and I'm thinking, okay, there's at least 6 reasons why she's acting like this. One of our things that we share with one another and we practice is the rule of 6. Once we see something, we go, okay, must be 6 plausible explanations for that. And I don't want to tell you where my mind went, but I'm glad you're back, and I'm glad you're okay with us right now. Since we brought up COVID in this particular piece, and I hope all of you had a chance to kind of recognize what's distracting me and how to release from that just temporarily. We thought that since we are in the middle of this pandemic and we don't know where the end is, there may be some light at the end of the tunnel. It does seem like other things pop up as we're drifting towards that light. At the same time, I'm kind of wondering if you have a COVID example, either in a virtual world or a real-time conversation, where you felt like, God, I do want to say something, but I don't know if I can.
Sure.
So, Colleen, why don't you start us off?
Sure. I would say, so I'm sitting here in beautiful California, Sacramento, California. And, one of the things that everybody misses is going out to eat. So I have there's a couple that my husband and I go out with frequently. And so literally we were still in like, I don't know, purple tier, and it's only outdoor dining. And so this particular couple, they're a little bit more free flowing than necessarily my husband and I. And so I always say, can we make sure that they're outdoor seating? They said, absolutely, sure, no problem. So we go to this restaurant, and sure enough, their outdoor seating is closed. And so they turned to us and go, is it okay if we sit inside? And I went like this, okay. And literally we rolled inside, and then I'm like, okay, do we have 6 feet of space and all this stuff? I dismissed that from my mind and went along.
Yeah, and I guess you had an opportunity to say other things. So Nicole, I'll let you be Colleen's conscience for a moment. What could she have said? And we can either be aggressive or not, right? We can be aggressive or mindful. But what were some things that Colleen could have said as she walked into the restaurant with her friends? You're muted.
All kinds of technological.
That's exactly what I said, which was nothing. So well,
that's perfect. Yeah, I'm just going to keep my mouth shut. That's really a good start. What else could she have said?
An option is, I'm wondering if there might be another restaurant option where we could be seated outside.
Yeah, like how can I kind of get into this space with my friends? Because I don't want to do anything off-putting. We do always want approval, right, in our conversations. So I don't want to lose my relationship here. And that sense of wondering was really, really good. In fact, you're going to learn one of the techniques in getting into the space heartfully, speaking from the heart, is by first wondering something. So, and Colleen, I know that as you went through this, I imagine your mind came up with lots of other alternatives. What other alternatives did you think of but not say?
Oh, I thought of so many different things, well, I appreciate, you inviting us here. I'm just not feeling very comfortable going inside.
Hmm.
Would you mind terribly if we do look for an alternative location or just take some food to go and come back to my house? I could have
Oh,
offered.
that's fantastic. And what stopped you from saying that? Can you tell us?
You know, Honestly, I feel like that probably the space was safe, but it was just one of those things where, well, it's really not that bad. Or
Hmm.
I don't know if I really need to speak up at this particular moment because it'll be okay.
That's the same response that happens when someone says, "Are there any questions? Or do you think this is the right way for us to move forward?" We start to have that internal narrative like, I guess it's okay. No, I don't have anything more to offer. There's all this little stuff that begins to get in there. So my ability to speak from my heart is stalled, and my head comes up with possible, alternatives, not anything that felt heartful to you. Did I get you right, Colleen?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah,
Yeah.
there's a space here that just gets us. I know we did a little bit of chat ahead of time before this happened, and I think Nicole, you had a really good example of this that also is related to COVID that is worth us listening to, because I think you're going to give us great insight into a situation that occurred where you felt like I should do something, but not so sure what at the moment.
It's
So
like, what is the something?
yeah, right. What is the something I should do? So this is really good because it ends up in that space of, does the action happen first or does the conversation happen first? Which I thought a lot about since we talked about this. So Nicole, all yours.
Yeah, so my kids play soccer, and they're teenage boys. They play soccer, and part of the return to play protocol for all of the soccer players when they play games, and actually when they practice as well, is for them to be fully masked. The players and their opponents are all supposed to be wearing their masks properly in order for them to play games. And we've noticed over the last couple of games, last few weekends that we've had games, there are particular players on the team that, wear their mask around their chin, or they, have it pulled down over, so it covers maybe their mouth, but not their nose. And we had some concerns about that. I mean, everyone has to wear it, right? Everyone on the other team has their masks fully on. We understand you run around, it falls down, but you see kids being intentional and pulling it back up. But there are just a few players on the team that just don't even bother. It's just wrapped around their chin, and that's the way that they proceed through the entire game. And we have a lot of dialogue on the sideline there, like, well, aren't they supposed to be like, should we say something? Who do we say it to? This feels wrong. Like we should be conscious of protecting everyone, our players, the other players on from the team. And then there's all of this internal dialogue. Well, if I say something, will that reflect negatively on me or my kids? Who are these players? I know they have relationships within the club that are, one of their parents is a coach. And so it's just this like entangled conversation in your head about, I know I should do something or say something, but then hesitant to because you fear the fallout, or you fear people telling you it's not a big deal, or so there's a lot of things wrapped up in that. But that's an example that I've experienced recently.
So I think it's extremely brave and very courageous for you to share that example. And there are truckloads of opportunities for us as parents when we watch our kids engage in activities. I was in Florida for most of my kids' development from kindergarten through beyond high school. And they played a lot of outdoor sports. And Florida is the lightning capital, I think, of the world, or it sure felt like it. And there I was sitting in the stand watching thunderstorms come and watching clouds come and seeing some lightning and what was my narrative, and am I going to get up out of the stands and go out in the middle of the entire thing and drag my kids to the sideline and so there's what you really described is a beautiful narrative that goes on inside of us anytime we're in those strange positions. Colleen, what did you learn listening to her talk about that?
I think one of the things that resonated with me is that you were thinking about it from lots of different perspectives, right? You were thinking about, okay, well, as a parent, I want to ensure my son's safe. I want to ensure the other players are safe. And, we want everyone to still be able to play. But who is that child? Who is that boy who's got the chin diaper going on, who's not wearing his mask? And is he the coach's son? Is he in charge of the club? How might that impact my son's ability to either make the team, stay on the team? And I think where I really transferred that in my thinking was how many times that I've observed meetings, and not that I can go into somebody's head and their dialogue, but you watch that hesitancy where people it's almost like they're biting their tongue because they want to say something, but they don't, because they're probably in the same situation going, well, what if Ray doesn't like what I'm offering? What if he doesn't like my thinking? What if it's met from the group and I receive fallout unintended because I'm just over here trying to do my very best? And to Nicole's point, to ensure that people are safe.
Colleen, that's brilliant. There was a piece I was playing with today as I was preparing myself for this conversation, where how many times did I want approval? I'm seeking approval. So I'm trying to couch my conversation, my messaging to make sure that that person that's listening to me agrees, approves, likes what I'm doing. And I'm going, am I actually being as honest with my conversation? And am I actually still drifting into that cognitive part of, I don't want to speak from the heart because that might not produce approval from the person I'm talking with or from the group I'm giving a briefing to. People very often wonder about, is this enough? Am I enough? Is it okay for me to really say what's on my heart? Like even here right now, this is one of those opportunities for those that are listening to this conversation, for the three of us to speak wide open. We intend to be heartful. We intend to be vulnerable in this conversation. That's the whole idea. If we can't model it, then how could anybody else even try to do this? So this has been, to this point, really good. What do you got for us, Nicole?
I have a question here from our audience. The question is, in situations like this, my internal dialogue may be asking, what's my intent? Or what value will saying what's in my head provide to the situation? How would you all address this comment or thought?
Colleen, what are you thinking?
Well, I think in situations, I've asked those same things, right? Because if I'm just sitting on the sidelines and I'm sitting next to somebody who I don't really know and I hear them say something, I kind of couch that with those questions as well. I say, what value would it bring if I bring forward and see something differently than with the person next to me, or say something? Is that really the situation where I can make the most influence, or do I need to go to a board meeting and see if we can put it as an agenda item? So I think, to your point, those are great questions. And I consider those, because if there's no value in me hashing it out with another mom on the sidelines versus where might I have a conversation where there might be a bit more influence, that might be it.
That's interesting, Colleen. So Colleen immediately pivoted to a reflection about impact. So we do a whole little piece on what to do when a negative event happens, right? And one of the first things we can always do is react. Like, what the hell are you doing? Why are you doing that? How all of that starts to unfold and can come out of us, right? That's a reaction. And we're always working really hard to reflect. What could I say differently? What could I say important? What would be useful that would allow this to dissipate or be dealt with effectively? So we're in that same space of, I want to be able to speak from the heart, but is it safe enough? Is it safe enough? And very often sitting in the stands with other parents watching kids play a sport, nobody set up any kind of parameters or boundaries for us to have a conversation. And that is why this entire effort that we're doing right now, speaking from the heart is one of the 5 conversation guidelines that we show people, and we practice them. But we practice them in a very disciplined way so that people can use speaking from the heart as a method to make sure that everybody's wisdom is in the room. And what you're both describing in this particular piece is no one's really interested in the wisdom in the room right now. They just want to deal with the event and move on to the next place. My opinion is just don't hit anybody and say what's on your mind. Okay. That is probably the best you can do, and hope it doesn't turn into something else. I have watched sly, sarcastic, snarky comments turn something into a mess. Want to do our best not to produce a mess, but take care of ourselves in our own thinking and use this as, okay, I need to really think about not how I'm going to react, but how I'm going to respond. And I can't really respond until I can recover a little bit and reset my thinking. Otherwise, I just stay stuck in that reactive place. What a great question that was. Nicole, you weigh in for us. What are you thinking and feeling at the moment?
Yeah, I really loved kind of the 2 perspectives that this question brought forward. One is the intent. Like, is my intent to bring forward my comment or idea to prove someone else wrong, or to prove how smart I am, or just to speak? And if my intent is really to move the conversation forward or bring forward a concern, that's a different kind of way to bring the conversation forward. Because if my intent is just, I didn't like what they said and I just want to prove them wrong, that's, I think, different than speaking from the heart and getting out of this cycle of just agreeing when we feel like everyone else must agree. I think that's a different thing. So I just kind of wanted to bring that forward, that sometimes we get in that trap as well of really just wanting to prove ourselves right or prove someone else wrong. So that was what came up for me.
Yeah, that inner voice of judgment will cause me to become openly aggressive or passively aggressive, right? When I think somebody is giving me bullshit, or I don't think this is right, or I want to make sure they know I'm right and that person is wrong. What you really identified is probably one of the hardest things to do in meetings. For example, Colleen and Nicole have both coached people that it is dangerous. And if you're writing notes down, please take this one. It's dangerous to make people's thinking wrong publicly. It's dangerous to make people's thinking wrong publicly. Now, it is not inappropriate to say, well, the deadline's next Thursday, and you know for a fact, no, it's next Wednesday. That is a fact. Bring facts forward. Thinking different. If somebody offers their heartful, spoken from the heart thinking, and you inadvertently, and it could be with a look, a nonverbal behavior, you might actually be dismissive of that particular person's idea or thinking. That is very, very dangerous to creating this safely dangerous space. All of our conversations are about how do we initiate and sustain safely dangerous space so people can speak from the heart. Because if they can, we can actually make decisions from collective wisdom, not from a couple of people's wisdom, but from collective wisdom. And as you know, in every hierarchy we work in, the hierarchy is always in play. You know, if the boss is leaning this way, we should probably go that way too. And if you hear the phrase, anybody see this another way? No, not really. You're going that way, brother. Sister, I'm going that way. So this is really good. And Colleen always talks about these as limiting factors, that when we are unable to get the heartful thoughts from the audience, from the people, it could be one person I'm in conversation with, that it becomes a limiting factor. Colleen, I love the way you talk about that. Would you talk about that for a moment? Limiting factors coming from the situation where somebody cannot speak from the heart.
Sure. Well, I think, in all of our coaching conversations, we're working with teams, working with organizations, everybody's focused on getting her done, right? We want to get results. We want to move forward. We want to be a hard charger. And if you think about it, all of us are working in a collaborative way. We are, whether I'm an independent worker and I'm on a team of people outside my organization, or I'm actually leading my own team. Well, one of the things to ensure that we can surface the collective wisdom of the group is truly creating this safe space and
Mhm.
letting people feel like they can speak from the heart.
Yeah.
Because if we can intentionally create a safe space, we'll produce trust, which will then get people all in and committed. And when they're committed, they're behaving differently than checking a box. And that checking a box very much can be, all right, boss, Ray, that sounds good. Whatever you think, go ahead and do your best. That type of behavior limits, I'm not giving Ray my best thinking. I'm holding out. I'm not contributing my thoughts. And he will then move forward with just that information. So it's a limiting factor when we're not speaking from the heart and we fall into this, it's okay. Whether I'm saying it out of deference because I almost said senior leader.
Yeah. Get off that senior stuff, please. Okay.
Or because I'm distracted and I'm not paying attention and I've got my camera off and things are being done in my team meeting. So I think it's really important to think about many times we don't even notice we're doing it, right? I really like Ray, so of course I'm going to agree with what he has to say. Bullshit. How can we pause and say, do I really like that? Or can I see it a little bit differently to provide him with additional data, additional information? And the more I do that, then Nicole chimes in. Now we've got everyone on the team offering their best thinking. So now our fearless leader can make more effective decisions and move forward with better plans and courses of action for us to achieve results.
I love it. And Colleen, you tweak so many little pieces inside of me. I have gone to meetings where somebody said, this is a decision brief. Well, no, it's not, because the person making the decision is the CEO, not us. And we need to use this briefing opportunity to get our best thinking into play. But that clarity is not always there. And then I'm watching the poor CEO trying to lead through consensus as opposed to pulling all the potential information inside so they can make the best possible decision. Too many examples of that, too many. Please, go ahead, Nicole.
Yeah, we had a couple of great questions come in. This one here, if the messy comment is directed to me personally, what is the best mechanism I can use to diffuse the messy moment?
So I'm noticing that right now, Nicole, you're giving me a statement about my effectiveness. And I'm wondering, are you trying to make me understand something or do something different, Nicole? Anytime you are challenged and I've got to tell you, there's all kinds of techniques. Noticing and wondering is one of the most fabulous techniques in the world. Example, I'm sitting with a group of people I was in Long Island. It was a high-powered bunch of senior leaders from school districts. And they were playing Stump the Stars. I'd never met them before, so they're going to find, well, what the hell does this guy really know about anything? Is he useful? Blah, blah, blah. So a question came, and it was really one of these, what kind of snake oil salesman are you? What do you really know about this stuff? And so I took the question and I said, okay, I'm hearing your question. Did I get your question right? So I acknowledged the person, I responded respectfully, and I made sure I understood the question. So I said, okay, I'm noticing you're very, very interested in this particular aspect of the work. And I'm actually wondering if anybody else in this room has an opinion or has an idea about how to move this forward. And I just snuck around my circle of 12. They answered the question. So anytime it's almost like there was a great book once out about verbal jujitsu, where when somebody's trying to shove you around, you kind of take the question and move it to the rest of the team so the collective wisdom helps answer it, rather than being on stage with somebody. In particular, my intent, I believed that person was just trying to make me look bad in front of the group so we could dismiss much of what I was saying. I could have been wrong about that. That's probably my own mental model is, am I enough? Am I good enough to be doing this? All those mental models of fear, etc. Breathe. Don't react, Ray. Respond. Breathe. Don't react. Respond. And notice the technique I used was noticing and wondering. It is very powerful. So I'm noticing we're inside 10 minutes in our conversation today. Do you have another question or something that popped up there, Nicole?
Yes, there was another comment or question here about how would you translate this or these techniques we're talking about into the Facebook mob?
Yeah, don't know that I can. Colleen, how would you translate this into the Facebook mob?
I think I'm going to lean back into our compadre's intention questions, right?
Mm,
One of the things that we know, defending is losing. If I'm just going to advocate, and that's what I mean, I'm not a big Facebook person, but what I've seen when I'm on there is people, they speak from the heart and then somebody else comes in with judgment. So
yeah.
now they're advocating their position. And really,
Mm,
what we're saying, and Nicole brought this up earlier, is if I'm speaking from the heart, I'm also holding space for difference, because I'm not going to try and convince Nicole that she needs to see it the way I do. That's not what we're trying to do. And I think people get confused.
brilliant.
And on Facebook, they advocate their position and disparage others when they don't, when they see things differently.
I love it, Colleen. That is magnificent. It is the ability for us, and we talk about this all the time in our developmental sessions. How do I balance advocacy? Because I have some strong beliefs,
Yeah.
and inquiry. Does somebody else have a different perspective or a different belief about this? And it goes back to, Colleen, you just resonated that whole piece again about trying not to be right, but to inquire, inquire, inquire. Inquiry is everything. There's some beautiful stuff in education right now on trust-based observations. Those are inquiry-based observations. So, Colleen, you made a teaching decision in that classroom. I'd love to know what you were thinking about when you made that. You shifted from A to B. Help me understand what your thinking was. Not, hey, you distracted yourself and the students by shifting to another. Know what I mean? It's just like, it's just a completely different conversation. Even if I say it nicely, it still shifts the conversation rather than developing our capabilities. And this is important for me, as I would say the whole world, to get better at inquiry. If we lead with inquiry, something different happens. Now, sometimes I could just say something like, well, Colleen, do you really think that? Well, that's an inquiry question, but it really is a judgmental question. And I'm poking my finger at Colleen and saying, I can't believe that's right. Da, 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 da.
Well,
So
I love where you've landed with this sense of inquiry. And I'm going to link back to that question, and then we'll pivot over to Nicole to see if there's other questions. But when something's messy, to me, that's when there's some emotion. People are attached to something. We get attached to our ideas or attached to a structure. I created that work group, blah, blah, blah,
yeah,
right? When people get attached and then they're reacting in that messy situation, oh my goodness, that's where you pause, you breathe, and shift to inquiry. Ask a question. Help me understand your thinking behind that statement. And to your point, not, it depends on your tone as well. But if I go straight into advocacy and start defending, well, that's not what I meant. I meant this.
yeah.
Right? Now the whole group goes sideways. So I love that whole sense of when you feel someone advocating, how can we pause and use reflection, especially in those messy situations, because somebody's heart's on the line. They're really attached to something. So instead of pushing back, let's pause and fade back into inquiry.
And you know, Colleen, you just sparked another thought. Sometimes somebody is speaking someone else's idea. And if they like the other person a lot or they like the ideology a lot, they speak it loudly and they speak it in ways that are very emotional rather than easy, easy. Okay. So help me understand where that came from. One of the things we do in our company with one another, we do teach this, but we don't do it all the time. So I'll say to Colleen, do you think that or do you know that? Is there any fact base behind that particular position? Because I recognize the level of emotion that's unfolding inside of you,
Oh,
but
bit
we are
me.
very.
You bit me. I'm over here going, damn it, he did it again. I did that to my son. And he's like, wait, what are you doing to me? I go, right, I'm just asking.
Oh, you got to be careful, because I had one of my kids actually say to me, I feel like you're working me. I said, no, like I'm working somebody and trying to get to another place. No, I'm just trying to understand. Do you think that or do you know that?
Well, but
Excellent.
I like that so much, because if I'm a meeting leader and everybody's like, yeah, and they're looking at their clock or they're turning off their Zoom camera because it's happy hour time, everybody's like, yeah, good idea, Colleen. Good idea. Good idea.
Yeah.
Okay.
Time to go.
Help me understand your why you think it's a good idea. Another great use of inquiry to ensure we're not pivoting into that kind of that group think or that limiting factor. Someone, to your point, Ray, I'm just going to say yes because Nicole offered the idea and I really like her. Or did I really actually listen to understand attach my thinking, talk about it, create
Oh,
personal meaning, and now offer my own. Now we're in a different space. We're in a true culture of co-creation.
yeah, yeah. Co-creation is beautifully stated, and that's where we want to get. Anything left for us, Nicole, or can we move on to our closing piece here?
I think we can move on to our closing. And I just wanted to kind of add in
Please.
the loop back to kind of our conversation around safely dangerous space. Everything that Colleen and Ray were just talking about here are ways that you can enhance the level of safe space that your team is experiencing. When you acknowledge someone and respond respectfully, even if the question is pointed or maybe stirs some emotion in you, the way that you respond can demonstrate vulnerability, it can demonstrate openness, and can build trust and safety within the team. If you're able to shift to that space of inquiry instead of defensiveness or advocacy.
That's really good. So I was just watching a few little clips over the last 2 weeks on how to respond to challenges in conversation. And so many times the people that were coaching you on how to respond well, what they were really first saying to do first, acknowledge what the person said, respond respectfully, and make sure you understood it. Because sometimes I'm responding to what I thought that person meant, but wasn't it at all. So if I don't take that first step of acknowledgement and respectful response, I will chase down a very strange kind of pathway. Really good, really good, really good. Thank you, thank you, thank you. So Colleen, as we do in all of our work, with our couple of minutes to go here, every time we have one of these sessions, ladies and gentlemen, we all learn. We're doing these, actually. We love that you're listening in. We love that you're with us. We do this so that we learn how to do our practice better. If we're not developing and growing, we are falling back. So we're always trying to get better. And that's what this was about. So I'm going to ask my two colleagues, because something really got me in the middle of this, so I'll be able to tell you about in a second. But I'd like to know from your vantage point, and we do this all the time, so it's interesting. You would think, oh, they must get tired of doing this. They keep coming up with more interesting stuff. But anyhow, Nicole, what's something that really resonated with you in this conversation today that you intend to bring forward?
I really loved the question we received from our attendee around intention. Like really coming back to, okay, what's my intention for voicing this concern? And I love just bringing that back into my current conversations and always checking in with myself on that intention before I move forward.
Oh, that's beautiful. That's gorgeous. There's a sense there too of I can speak from my head or I can speak from my heart. And I had one woman that taught me this work a long time ago now. She said, you can actually visualize that. You can visualize, am I speaking to you cognitively from my noodle, from the things I'm thinking about, or I am speaking with you and visualize from my heart. That is completely different. And you get it's a different feel. It's almost like the phraseology we use in our company about, this is how those words landed on me. That is speaking from the heart. It's not, did I technically or intellectually understand it? They landed on me this way. They occurred to me in this way. There's an emotional edge to that. That was magnificent. Thank you so much. Colleen, how about you? What's something new you took away?
I think it was really in the last statement, a couple of statements that you made, and it was, ensure that you understand what the person's saying first before you then weigh in and begin to speak from the heart. And it reminded me of, because I shared, I'm a COVID golfer. I started golfing when COVID lockdown happened. And I took my mom out to hit some balls the other day. And literally I'm driving back from the golfing range. And my mom is just like getting all mad at me and tearing into me. And I'm going, oh my God, what is happening? She completely misunderstood the statement that I made about my brother. And so she took it completely a different way. And I wasn't quite sure. And she instantly reacted, right? She didn't pause to clarify. So she misunderstood. I think she's getting a little hard of hearing as well. But I think that statement.
Hey.
I mean, but literally I was like thrown for a loop. I almost wrecked. So I'm like, all right, Mom, that's not what did you hear me say? And literally she said, I thought you said this. And I go, hell no, I didn't say that. So I had to pull her back in. So I think it's so critically important because boy, was she speaking from the heart, but she was reacting to something that I didn't say. So how can we make sure that you heard what I said in the way intended before we jump into something messy? Because sometimes that got messy and it got messy quick.
I'll tell you, Colleen, this morning I was talking about something and what I heard was naked. And what they said was bacon. And I was like, what are you talking about? It was my daughter-in-law and Ruby. And I'm like, what are you two talking about? And when I told them what I heard, they about died. Okay. So it's really important to confirm that which you think you understood and heard as the person put it on the table. You guys were magnificent today. I'm going to turn it back to you guys to end the day. Those of you that are with us and know the work a bit, what you heard here today was an expansion on one of the 5 learning conversation guidelines, how to speak from the heart and learn the distinction of speaking from your head, your cognition, from your heart. And if you noticed, my 2 colleagues, and I love them dearly, both spoke from the heart all through this conversation today. A pleasure to be with you. Nicole, I think you have mission control. Is that right?
I do, yes, thank you. I'm going to share my screen real quick and just wanted to take this opportunity to thank you again for joining us today. We appreciate you being here. Wanted to let you know about some other wonderful things that we offer here at JLC. We do have a weekly podcast that we just launched at the beginning of this year. So if you've not yet had the opportunity to check that out, it's a wonderful way to engage in more everyday leadership conversations with us here at Team JLC. So look for that wherever you find your podcasts. We're on Spotify and Apple, and you can find a link to it directly on our website. We also offer this type of conversation and webinar every month. So we would love for you to join us again. You can find that on our events page and register for next month and all the months for the rest of the year. We would love to see you again and have you join us. It's a new topic every month. So we'll explore different relevant leadership topics every month. We also offer other services. Most of what we've been doing in 2020, or a lot of the things that we have done is in that executive coaching space. We've really been connecting and supporting a lot of leaders, especially as they've faced the challenges of COVID and leading differently through this environment through that executive coaching opportunity. So if you're interested in learning more about that, please do connect with us. You can find that as well on our website. And we also offer different kinds of customized learning opportunities for you and your leadership teams. And we'd love to talk with you about those opportunities. So please reach out to us personally. Please go to the website and check that out and connect with us there. And Colleen and Ray, I'll turn it over to you if you have anything further.
No, just wanted to say for any of these webinars, if there's a topic or something where you're like, hey, that was really interesting, I'd love to hear more, feel free to email that to us and we can put that on for our next webinar or actually do a podcast about that topic. So once again, just time is the greatest resource that we have. So grateful for you guys making the choice to spend some time with us today. So thanks again. Right?
My colleagues have said everything perfectly. And the only thing I would say is if you do contact us, one of us will talk to you. You're not going to get someone on a phone working for us that's responding to, we'll talk to you. So give us a ring. Happy to chat with you. This opportunity to be with you in this way is just magnificent. And we hope you enjoyed it. Truly hope you enjoyed it and got something out of this. Remember to notice and wonder whenever possible. Take care, folks.